Okay, thank you very much. I am going to do a quick quorum check. I do not see, I currently see Brian Vituli.
Yes, hello.
Okay, I see Victoria Chavez. I see Brandy Williams.
Here.
Give me just a second because I've got, this is all in a strange way to me. And Sally Riley. Am I missing any voting members?
Yeah,
Other than Jennifer Irvin, who just also popped on.
Yeah, I'm here too, Tim Roberts.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
And I believe I'm a voting member too, am I not? This is Wendy.
You are. You're just only if we need you in a pinch.
I've got you, Wendy. Sorry about that. Like I said, it's designed to drive me crazy.
We always need Wendy.
Oh yeah, we can't survive without Wendy.
No.
That does put you at meeting the quorum.
And
Jessica, this
Go
is
ahead.
Jennifer Irvin. I'm here too. I'm usually an alternate, but one of my staff members is gone, so I am a voting member today.
Okay, we got you.
Thank you.
That was my question. So Anton's not coming?
He is has a medical procedure today, so I am
You
here.
are Anton for today.
You.
Got it. Okay.
Welcome back, Jennifer.
Thanks all. Good to see y'all.
Yeah, long time no see. Here.
And real quickly, before you get started, I don't know if you saw that Larry Manning from Monument.
I got an email from Jason that he's not going to be here. Is there an email I've missed from Monument?
It looks like Larry is here. He's on the call.
Go.
Hi,
Thank
Larry.
you all, and we'll double check in the system just to see who did log on if I missed anyone during this quick roll.
Welcome back, Larry.
Yeah, Larry.
Thank you.
Back. Okay. Thanks, John. All right. We have called the meeting to order. We have established a quorum. Introductions are not as easy as they used to be, so we just kind of hope you scroll up and down and see who's here to join us. So we're going to go on to item 2, agenda approval. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
Wonderful. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Brian.
Approval.
I'll second. This is Brian.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who was the motion maker?
I think it was Victoria.
It
Yes.
was me.
Okay. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Item 3, public comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the meeting who would like to comment on something that is not on today's agenda? Give time to get off mute and add. Okay, item 4, approval of the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes?
Yeah, I need to be marked as attending. As in attendance, I guess I should say.
And Brandy, this is Victoria. On 6A, it looks like the sentence got cut off.
Yeah, the seconder.
So I'd move approval with a correction for 6A and Tim's attendance.
This is Brian. I'll second.
Comments on the minutes? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5, John, Board of Directors report.
There were a few items on the agenda that were transportation related. The board adopted the second round of the MMOF, and I think Catherine sent out an email after the meeting to everybody. The board heard an information item on PPACG taking over the FDA 5310 funding, and I believe that I'll come back next month for action. And then finally, Jason O'Brien of PPACG brought in some folks from Drive Smart Colorado, Miley Gray, and I forget the gentleman's name, but they gave a presentation for the safety campaign. They demonstrated 3 social media posts, and they explained why they went the route of social media, given that this is an election year. The ability to grab any sort of TV time or radio time or billboards because of the different campaigns that are going on locally and nationally, that just wasn't going to be something that was going to be done easily. So we went the social media route. And that was what happened at the board meeting. On a side note, I have seen the ads on Facebook a couple of times, and I think they're hopefully they'll be effective to get people to sort of think twice about what they're doing. Anybody else who was at the or tuned in, I should say, to the board meeting have anything additional to add? Feel free to let me know. I've left something out.
Does anybody have anything to add to John's report? Hearing none and trying to allow as much time as possible to find the unmute button, we will go on to item 6A, action items. STP Metro Cost Overrun Project Selection. Catherine?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Catherine Winger, Transportation Planner, PPACG. Try to remember to say that even on the video. So last month, this item was brought to you and we tabled it to this month. So this is for the STP Metro Cost Overrun Project Selection. In June and recently, last Friday in August, we sent out emails to all the TAC members regarding availability of STP Metro funds. The original amount was about $3.4 million. And we did receive 3 applications that we discussed last month from El Paso County, Fountain, and Colorado Springs. The request was more than we had available. And so, and actually what happened was during the workshop, discussion happened there as well. But at last TAC, they requested to defer the decision to have more time to come up with a better solution so that all of you could get a little bit more money or a lot more money. So after further discussions between us, there was a proposal made that's on the second page below the table. So it's a few things happening here, so I'll just kind of go through them. So Colorado Springs, in order to make sure that Colorado Springs can get up the full amount that they need for their 30th Street shortfall, and El Paso County can get the money they need, or as much money as they can for their local match replacements, which then would help with their I-25 gap local match portion, and then Fountain, their request for their Indiana shortfall. The following recommendations and changes are recommended. So Colorado Springs would return all of their money for their Hancock project that currently sits in years 21 and 22. This would free up just over $2 million, and they would, just as a side note, would request PPRTA funds to do that project instead. And so they're proposing that through the PPRTA. Then they would request that same amount of the STP Metro pool in 2021 for their 30th Street shortfall. But in order to do that, there needs to be funds that need to open up in 2021 for that project in 2020. 2021. There's a lot of numbers going on. So in order to make room for to use the money in 21 for 30th Street, funding needed to be opened up. And so that's where this Walker Road project comes in from El Paso County. El Paso County would request the 1.9 million, the total that's in 22 for Hancock, and they would free up that amount in 21, and then they would request it in 22 so that they would get that. They would still have that project fully funded in that year. And then they would receive the 2.6 million in the cost overrun pool for their local match. And then Colorado Springs would receive 300,000 of that money. And then Fountain would get their full request for $500,000 for their Indiana. And so with all that confusion, hopefully I didn't make it worse, the amendment request, if this were to be approved, would be Fountain getting the 500,000, Colorado Springs with 30th Street would get 2.3 million, or just over 2.3 million. El Paso County would get a local match replacement of 2,650,440, and then El Paso County would get the replacement money for their Walker Road for 1,937,044. And so those were all the action items that are proposed to help get Colorado Springs, 30th Street fully funded, El Paso County some more money for their local match, and then obviously Indiana would get theirs as well. I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions for that explanation.
No questions for Catherine? Well, thanks, Catherine. That was a lot to digest and then a lot to put down on paper, so we all understood what was going on.
Okay. Okay. And one other thing, I know Brian probably wants to chime in. I'll just note that we did send out the the second email on Friday to let everyone know that this was the proposal. So it does make the Hancock money available, but it is requested that it goes back into the pool for these projects to get fully funded. And so that was the funding was made aware for everyone to hear, but this is the proposal to replace it.
Brandy, can I comment? I'm sorry, I didn't respond quick enough to your ask.
No, it's okay. You got time.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to say I fully support this, and I just wanted to say this. This once again shows how, when we're all kind of faced with a difficult situation here, with all having needs and not enough money to solve them, that we always figure out a way to work together and be creative and find ways to do it. So great job, everybody involved. And, this is another great example of how we work together. So thanks again.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks the city and the county. Again, coming up with creative ways to make it work. So there's a win-win-win all the way around. So I echo what Brian said. Thank you.
This is Wendy. Can I ask a favor of Catherine? When you get ready to put this into the board packet, will you create that nice little table like you did last time so I can figure out who's on first?
Sure, yeah. For the CAC and the board item, I consolidated a lot of this information and just made it into a tip amendment. And
Okay.
so that it doesn't seem quite as confusing to them.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Had the full explanation, but yes, I will make sure it's more streamlined.
Thank you.
Of course.
This is Victoria. I just want to thank PPACG staff, Catherine, John, and Tim for putting in a lot of hours on trying to figure out how to make this work. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I will move approval.
I'll second that. And I echo, the cooperation with the region. And thanks to PPACG to help facilitate this. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Item 6A, 2021-2024 Tip Programming Overages. Catherine.
So Catherine Wenger again. So this item is coming from a request from CDOT. They released some updated programming allocations and their system has been updated. And what we initially programmed for our 21 through 24 tip is different than what we have available. And so there are some adjustments that need to be made as outlined in the memo. So we have, for our region, we have SDP Metro funds and TAP funds that we programmed from years 21 through 24. For 21, you all just approved kind of the updates that we needed to make for 21. So we're good there. For 2022, in both SDP Metro and TAP, we have some money that's remaining. We didn't program, we don't have enough programmed for that. So that's actually good news. And Wendy, feel free to chime in whenever, if these numbers might have changed a little bit. I'm not sure. And then, so for years 23 and 24 in both SDP Metro and TAP, we are over programmed slightly on those projects, or on projects. And so we do need to reduce the amount that was awarded or programmed for the projects in those years. And so the proposal would be, hopefully we can work together, that regional cooperation that we have, to kind of reduce what we currently have programmed. Luckily, it's not a huge number for either, but we do need to reduce them. And so I wanted to, your first attachment, our attachment 1, shows what we currently have programmed in those years from the workshops that we held, I believe it was earlier in the year. And so let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen so we can kind of do it in real time. Is there any questions before we, or comments or concerns?
Question probably for Wendy. Can we move some of that 22 money into 23 and 24 so that we don't have those overages?
No.
Could we leave it remaining and roll it forward later?
Yes.
Ah.
But we need to fix the overages now, because without that, you won't be able to budget anything until we can get there, and that's a whole year from now.
Ugh. Okay.
So I was curious, one project that repeats throughout this whole scenario is Brian's project. I was curious if maybe he might be able to take more money in 22 and take less money in 23 and 24. And that would solve the problem easily, but I don't know if that's an option.
You're talking about the transit planning studies?
Yes, sir.
I don't know, because it's kind of a it needs to be there every year, and robbing from one year to fill in another year, I'm not sure if that would work.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
No, I know that's a good thought. Let me confirm that though, and I can let everybody else know.
You said you need money in every year, but does it have to be the same level?
Well, you know, when I react to a call for projects, it's kind of all based on what we're doing each year for studies and staff. So it is kind of a pretty accurate number for year to year. So I don't know. I don't know if that would work.
Okay.
So I have a silly question. Let's pretend that we up Brian's amount for 2022 and he doesn't use it all. Then can we roll it into 2023 and give
Sure.
him the amount the next year?
Sure.
Can we do that, Brian? Can we just make it look like it's bigger in 2022 and then when you don't spend it all, give it to you in 2023? That way you've got the same amount every year and we're not changing that. I mean, I don't know.
Just to roll forward.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw it out there and see if that's an option.
I was also thinking that maybe the ADA project for El Paso County could take money in 2022 for the 100,000 that we need to cover, and then it could just be rolled forward into 23 as well. So just curious.
So Jen and I are going back and forth on text. I think we can do something with the ADA project.
Okay.
So it would
It's a
mean
large
we'd have-
enough amount of money, so it makes sense that it could absorb the difference and just let it roll into the next year, you know?
It would also give us the ability to start a little early, wouldn't it?
You'd have design money, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Why don't you go ahead and make those adjustments from the El Paso County ADA project, and
Okay.
And I'll move approval.
Okay,
That would be for the STP Metro funds.
correct.
Okay.
Before we get to a motion, and thanks for that, Victoria. I just wanted to bring up, probably 2 weeks after the deadline for the call for projects for, the cost overrun money that we just recommended approval for, we had a Front Range Passenger Rail stakeholder meeting for our region. And it was brought up that we're, Pueblo's kind of got a pretty good start on a station location study. We're going to need to do the same if we want to have a station anywhere in our region. And, it wasn't right for me to throw my hat into the ring for the cost overrun money when the deadline had already passed. But, if there's a way, with all the creative minds here at this meeting, if there's a way to somehow carve out, I don't know, $200,000 to $300,000. I'm trying to kind of get an accurate number on what a station location study would be. If there was a way to find money for that out of these overages, I'd be really appreciative. And unless there's another entity that wants to take on a station identification study, we're glad to do it. And I think the city of Colorado Springs could probably find the match for the study, but we would just need to find some money somewhere to dedicate to that. So if there's a way to do that, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, this is Tim Roberts. If my math is right, and if the county adjusts their ADA project, am I reading that there would be $760,000 of Metro funds available in 2022?
Correct. And if we adjust for TAP as well, there'll be about 36,000 left of TAP too when we adjust for that.
Okay.
So here's another idea. We could take the STP Metro and we could backfill whatever the shortage is in 23 and 24, whichever project we decide to reduce in 23 and 24 for TAP. And then there would be money in either TAP or STP for Brian to be able to have in a separate call for projects for those other funds to be able to have money for his study. In TAP, you have money that's available now, so you could actually start on it right away and not wait another year.
Yeah.
Are there any MMOF funds left?
No,
I don't think so.
that round 2 just wrapped up the total amount that we have. So unless someone returns or drops a project, then we don't have any left.
Okay. And if somebody did drop an MMOF project, it would go back for a call, right, to the general pool, like all the other funds.
I'm assuming that would be up to you all, since you are the ones that, you know, kind of create and decide how to distribute those funds. So it would be up to you. And then obviously the board for final decision.
Unless it happens too close to the end of the time period, then it might be a headquarters call whether or not we could do something with it. But I'm thinking that Catherine's right at this point, if something happened in the next few months.
That's a good point, Wendy. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I just know that Michael's very controlling over that expiration date, and every conversation I've had with him, it all comes, he makes sure that I understand that totally and completely.
Fair enough.
So.
Yeah. All right. So we don't have to figure out the Brian situation right now necessarily, but we can if you have more comments on that, or we can look at TAP real quick and see what we might be able to do with those funds as well.
This is Brian. Can I make another comment on Brian's item? So if it makes it easier, you know, with the rules that we have for seeking out cost overrun funds, you know, my thinking is, since I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, our transit planning studies monies are kind of, you know, defined pretty specifically for each year. And, so that's an existing project. And if there were cost overrun dollars available, that kind of meets the criteria for seeking cost overrun funds, right? Usually it should go to an existing project first. So my thought is that whatever funds we could find, we could put it in whatever year. 21 would be great, so we can get an early start on it. But then I think that would probably meet the criteria for seeking cost overrun funds. If that sounds right to everybody.
I think we could probably fix TAP with the Galley Road sidewalk project. Who does that belong to?
El Paso
Is that
County.
Is that another county project?
Yeah.
It is. That one I'm a little more worried about because I don't know that I'm ready to start that one now.
Well, you would have, there's $100,000 in 2022. And I was just thinking that we could do a swap and balance it out. And then you could just roll, if you're not ready, you could roll it into 2023, and then anything that needs to be moved from a design phase into construction would just roll forward in the documents, and it would be an administrative change.
It's all design.
Oh, is it all design?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 100,000 in 2023, and then you have 400,000 in 2024.
And I'm hoping Jennifer's still on the line because I don't have a good handle on the scheduling for design projects.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
Just, can you reiterate again, Wendy, what you're trying to do? Are we moving money forward for Brian and then money back for the county? Is that the?
No, we wouldn't be, we have to fix the over program in TAP in 23 and 24. So we have roughly about $65,000 that were over programmed in 23 and 24. And I could take money from 22, to balance that out and give it back to the Gelly sidewalk project. And Brian would still have access to the $200,000 in TAP that I believe is available in 2021 right now.
Oh, okay, so we're essentially, instead of doing the deal with the ADA thing for the county?
No, we still need to do the ADA thing. That's the SDP Metro.
Okay, so would the county money be moved back a year? Is that what you're looking at?
It would be moved ahead a year. Part of it would be moved ahead a year.
But it could be rolled, if you didn't use it, then it could be rolled into 23,
Right.
back into it.
But that's going to get us in trouble with John because we're trying not to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting queasy about actually the whole conversation here, just because we can only act on what's on the agenda, and what's on the agenda is fixing that one problem. All of a sudden, then we've added this other thing. So you definitely cannot add Brian's request until something's gone out to everybody. So
Right.
talking about the TAP is part of what's on the agenda. That's great, but you can't promise it to anybody, and it has to go through a normal call for project.
Right.
At this point, it may be cleaner just to do what we had already discussed. In fact, I think there was a motion and a second already made on the floor pending a vote to just go ahead and use the El Paso County project to fix the problem at hand. That being said, now we can go back and address what Brian's talking about and then have that on the agenda at a later date. But I think we're a little beyond the scope of what's on the agenda.
So you have both overruns in both TAP and STP Metro. So the El Paso County swap only takes care of STP. We haven't dealt with TAP yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me be clear, John. I certainly don't want to make you feel queasy. And I was not asking for us to alter this agenda item to address my item. I was just trying to lay the track work, pun intended, for future money for a passenger rail location study. Yeah, I'm totally good with that.
Right, and I guess, Brian, back to your first comment about, well, you're not comfortable moving the studies item because it's very specific. Then later on you said, well, would this fall under the studies? So unless in the tip, it is very specific naming of the projects, we're sort of locked in. If it just says a very generic transit studies, then why don't we go back to sort of the original thought? We move forward some monies into the current year to fix the TAP with that project. And then if that's enough money to go ahead and do the station study under transit studies, then you're set.
Okay, I followed some of that, but then you started to break up, and I didn't hear everything. Sorry.
Can I offer some help at least for 2023?
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Can you hear me? Okay. So this will make 2022 more of a negative balance, but because the Shooks Run bridge, it says it's a design phase, we could actually split that over the 2 years and start the design earlier. So we could take our shortfall in 23, put it into 2022. That makes our negative greater though in 2024. Wait, look at the years. Yeah, we can split our design into 2023 and 2024, but that makes 2023 more negative. But is there more flexibility with moving 2022 funds in 2023?
What do you mean by flexibility, Tim?
Well, it's not construction, it's design. So if we start design later in the year, then we can carry it over a 2-year period or into 2 tip years.
You're asking if design is more flexible than construction?
No, well, I'm saying no, they're probably equally. It's just, you know, whenever we go out to bid, we could time it such that it's more towards the end of the year so that it would be covered over 2 fiscal years.
I would definitely say that's a Wendy or a Catherine question.
It's probably not the best solution, but
Yeah, I mean, we could make it work, but it would be, it would mean moving more. Somebody would need to put more funds into 24. And then we'd have to deal with the overage in 23. Or I guess you said move the overage into 22. Yeah, so it could be done, but it would definitely be a little less straightforward than just doing it with one project in 23.
right.
What about your school program funds?
Yeah, that could be split too, using the same philosophy, but if we want to advance some into 2022.
Yeah.
It's just not as seamless as what we're looking for.
Or were you asking to move the money back, Catherine? I don't think you were asking to move it forward. I think you were asking to move it back, right?
No, it would move it forward. So they would get 103,000 in 2022, and then we'd remove
34,000 in 23.
Yeah, but then you don't have money sitting in 24, so that also makes it another. Yeah, the easiest one is the one that sits in 23 and 24, which unfortunately is the county as well. But
yeah,
it could be done.
Right, Catherine?
I think we could probably try and make it work.
for Galley
Oh,
Road.
Galley. Yeah, we'll have to probably rearrange some stuff internally to make sure it can happen, but we can try and start that earlier.
What TAP? We don't have TAP projects shown for 22.
No, this was just when we programmed 23 and 24. What's sitting in 22 currently is El Paso County's wetland bank. And that's the only project that's sitting there right now.
I knew that was out there somewhere. I was just talking about it yesterday, and I was like, someone is working on that project. So yes, it was the county.
All right, Catherine, go ahead and do magic that you have to do to make that work and let me know what the numbers are.
For Galley?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
And did the project that the county volunteered solve all the problems for STP Metro?
Correct.
Wonderful.
TAP. Victoria,
Yes.
would you guys want to advance any of your ADA?
We already made that proposal to do that and fix it.
For 2024 to 2023?
Yeah. Yeah, we can fix the STP and start that one early. That one's not a problem. Galley's gonna be a little more challenging, but we'll figure it out.
I'm thinking of the TAP, yeah, okay.
So if I understand everything correctly, what we have here is that the El Paso County projects will fix the problem in both years. And then after the problem gets fixed, there will be additional TAP funds in the out years. And Catherine, that will be a separate call for projects. And we already know Mountain Metro will put in an application for that. for the station. Is that what's happening?
Yes, correct.
All right. And since I don't think anyone has a problem doing that call for projects sooner than later, do they? So can we do that in the next couple of months so Brian can, again, provided no other projects come up or even if they do, that it's that project that is selected going through our federally mandated process, they could start sooner than later, right? We're not gonna hold off to the beginning of the fiscal year or anything like that. We can do that sooner than later. Is that correct?
As long as Wendy gives me the okay, I can move it forward.
All right. And as long as there's no objections from the committee, everybody good with us doing a call for projects for that TAP money?
And STP money?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes.
No, I'm fine with the call. I will highlight though that the compromise on the overrun that we made left us a little more than $1 million short. So I probably will be putting back in the local match replacement project as well. We came to a solution. It just didn't fully fund that project.
Okay, does that work for you, Brian?
Absolutely, yeah. And even though we kind of already resolved this, I think the early question that I think it was Victoria you asked me about transit planning studies being moved around. I think if you would rather us do that in place of what you're doing with your ADA project or some portion of it, we could probably do that.
No, I'm actually happy to move ADA forward.
All right. Okay.
That works better for us, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, so being a stickler for the rules, I think your original motion was just for the STP portion. I think Victoria made it and Tim Roberts seconded it. So do you want to amend your motion now to add the TE stuff or the TAP stuff, excuse me, Victoria, and will you accept that, Tim? And if that is correct, if I'm remembering correctly, then everybody needs to vote on it.
I am happy to amend my motion to include both the STP and the TAP fixes.
As a seconder, I concur.
And whoever officially writes up the motion is going to have the actual project that's being affected for both of those, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final thoughts, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any closing comments, Catherine, or can I go on to the next agenda item?
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you working together on that. Helps me out.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, everybody. I'm glad I didn't get too queasy, so thanks for that, Brian.
Especially since you're on camera, John. Item 7A, CDOT updates. I don't know if Kathleen or Wendy wants to start, but I will let you two arm wrestle.
Okay, this is Kathleen. I can just tell you 3 things that I know. We're excited because the Transportation Commission today, they adopted the 2045 statewide transportation plan. So we're moving forward with meeting with our TPRs, our transportation planning regions in the rural areas of the state to get them to adopt their regional transportation plans for 2045. The TC, the Transportation Commission, is also forming a freight subcommittee so that they're going to be focusing on freight and its association with the economy. So that's something that Commissioner Beatty from the Eastern Plains area of the state is going to be leading. And then there is also a big focus at HQ on greenhouse gas emissions reduction. And that is something that we're working on internally and also reaching out to other agencies to help us with that movement. It's something the governor his executive order to reduce a certain amount by 2030. And we're trying to focus on zero emission vehicles in part of the solution. I don't know. Wendy, do you have anything else to add, or anybody else from CDOT who's present have anything else to add?
I think we should mention the budget. Did you go to the workshop yesterday?
No, I didn't attend the workshop. So if you have something to report for that, go ahead.
So we have a budget deficit right now of about $62 million, almost $63 million, $62.9 million. And through looking at all the sofas in the building and shaking out the cushions and looking at what's roll forward, what is needed, what isn't needed, what needs to go back to the respective pools, I think we're going to be okay for this year based on the current estimates. Till we get to October, we won't know for sure. October seems to be the month that they're going to have all of the estimates reconciled, and we'll see exactly where everything sits. And we're still waiting on cost center roll forwards inside the organization. We won't know what those are yet because we haven't finished closing out the books. We're looking for federal redistribution, and we're looking for all of our revenue reconciliations for year end. So once we get to October, we should be in a good place to know exactly if there's any more issues for the budget for 2021. But going into fiscal year 2022, that's still pretty much up in the air. But at least we're not having to cut back on maintenance or projects and other things in 2021. So it looks like we're going to be okay. I thought that was a very enlightening piece to know that even from a payroll perspective, that we're not having to worry about what that might look like, because it looks like everything's going to balance out. And I'm with Kathleen on the fact that I'm excited to see this 2045 plan come to an end. This has been the longest plan I think I have ever worked on in my career. And I'm happy to see it come to an end. And I'm glad to see that we actually have a list of projects that we can pull from anytime we do have a need for projects for different funding sources, different issues that come up. We have something to start with. We're not starting from scratch. That makes such a big difference inside the organization, and it cuts down the extra work and a lot of the stress on the staff to be able to go to a list, open up the plan and say, hey, in this area we have this, this, and this that fit this need. So it's going to be really enlightening to see how the plan is actually used and not collecting dust. And I think that's all I have. So, Michelle, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Thanks, Wendy. The only thing is, most everybody knows, but our contracts unit is very backed up right now. They've got several people working on contracts, trying to get those through to get caught up. So we appreciate everybody's patience on any option letters or outline agreements. And that's all I have.
And then to build on Michelle's work here, what will happen now that we have all of the funding in a positive area, it will allow the business office to continue moving forward with the processes. So things have been sitting on hold for the last month until we got to the point where we figured out where the shortfall was going to be rectified. So everything will be moving here real quick. I'll get it. Catherine, I'll work with Catherine. We'll get this in a position where we can move forward with those changes as soon as we can, so that way it'll stop delaying the process.
Wendy, question for you.
What's
How
that?
did we work out the South Powers in the actual study? Do you know?
You mean as far as
Getting it included in the plan?
Oh, okay. So what happened is that I'm not happy with the way that headquarters handled it, but I got overruled and they quit talking to me after I told them I wasn't in agreement. So it's been incorporated in a way that it will give us the ability to do what we needed to do, and that's all that really matters. I really wanted to have it done differently, but the way that you and I discussed up front, but the consultant and the headquarters team, Tim and Rebecca and those folks and the consultant didn't see it my way and your way. So what they did will allow us to be able to move forward, but it wasn't exactly as we had hoped with the resolution and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from CDOT? Does anybody have any questions for CDOT?
This is Kristen from FTA. Hi, I'm just underscoring appreciation and kudos to Wendy and CDOT staff for getting their plan done. That was a huge hurdle. So congratulations, Wendy and Kathleen.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kristen.
Congratulations. So hopefully it was louder for everybody else. All right, now item 7B, TIP project delivery policies and procedures. Catherine?
Hello. So this item is to discuss possible changes to the policies and procedures for project delivery. Nothing really too dramatic. It actually puts just more pressure on PPACG to make sure the projects are moving, but it also kind of, I guess it does put pressure on the you as project managers and jurisdictions to kind of get started earlier on in the process so that we don't have this backlog of projects that we've had in the previous years. So the goal here is to encourage everyone to think ahead of the actual year that your project is programmed in the TIP and get the project moving before then, so that once the fiscal year that it's in comes up, that you can actually, start moving and get those funds obligated in that year. And so the recommendation is, once you are programmed and selected for inclusion in the TIP, PPACG would send out the initial letter and award / email of award for the project, and it would outline the jurisdiction responsibilities as they're currently listed in the policies and procedures guidebook, and it would also include a flow chart of the project delivery process, and I'll get back to that in just a moment. After that, it would sit there in the TIP like it normally does, but then about 6 months prior to the fiscal year that the project is listed, PPACG would send out an email to inform the jurisdictions of that upcoming project and funds and forms, and would let you know that you need to get started and working with the CDOT local agency to get those moving. And so that would start that process with them. We would check back in another 3 months after that to kind of make sure that those forms are getting started and completed and make sure that project is moving. From that point on, the suggestion is to do quarterly check-in meetings, kind of like what we have actually been doing with these overrun projects currently. And I think it hasn't been too overwhelming, hopefully. It's been we've got pretty good feedback on the quarterly check-ins are helpful. And so then another 6 months prior to the end of that fiscal year where the project is listed, there would be an evaluation of the progress to determine if projects need to be return the funds or if they possibly need to be rolled forward. That is being highly discouraged now. So just be aware that it's not necessarily the best option or a guaranteed option for that matter. And then the question would be at that point for us before we start this potential process would be, do the jurisdictions think that if no progress is being made at this point, should they be kind of required to return those funds, or other arrangements be made for swapping with another project in another year? Or how do we want to handle that if they're not making enough progress to meet their obligations in that year? And then about 3 months prior to the end of that fiscal year, hold a progress evaluation and recommendation meeting based on that 6-month one, and see what we need to do with those funds. I've chatted with CDOT local agency, Lachelle and Junior and Matt and Wendy as well. They think this is a good layout time-wise, and it would help keep that process moving. The other thing I brought up was about the flowchart for project delivery kind of training. Their Junior does go over with each of you that has a project to kind of talk you through the process of how to handle these federal funds and all of the steps that need to be taken. But we would like you all to know ahead of time what those steps would be, especially for project managers that haven't done it before, just so you know that it can be a lengthy process. It can take a while, and there's a lot of steps involved. And so in the initial email and award, and also an initial workshop before the tip gets approved, we would have a kind of a quick overview of a project flowchart that goes over those steps. It comes straight out of the local agency manual, if any of you have seen that. It's something that that CDOT put together that has a lot of detail on the process, but this would just be a quick overview. And then you would dig deeper potentially with CDOT local agency, if that makes sense. So with that, I'll be quiet and see if anyone has any comments, questions, suggestions.
This is Sally. Sounds like a great, helpful process for managing the federal dollars.
I agree. Nice job.
Thank you. Does anyone have any concerns with the piece, or comments, I guess, about how we might want to handle projects that aren't meeting the progress at a certain deadline? Just keeping in mind that roll forwards are highly discouraged from this point forward, or moving after we get this our glut of projects that we currently have.
And I'll probably just ask a follow-up question, since most jurisdictions are more familiar than I am. Is 6 months enough time to figure out if you're making progress? Like, it seems to me there's so many steps. I don't know how many steps you actually get through in 6 months. And is 6 months enough time? Like, I don't know many projects. I don't think I've had a project yet that's done in a year. So for the bigger projects, I can only imagine they generally roll forward. But at what point in time do you feel as though they've made enough progress? Like, I mean, it seems like, I don't know if there's hey, you've made it through the contract stage, or we've got bids back, or what kind of milestones normally get accomplished in 6 months. I don't want people to think the project's going to be built in 6 months, because I can't get anything done in 6 months. But that's more of a question for Tim and Victoria, is how much can you really accomplish in 6 months once you've got the ball rolling?
And I guess just a quick comment to that, this is Catherine. So the project wouldn't need to be done in that fiscal year. It would just need to be obligating the funds, just as a clarification. So that is still a lot of things to do, even just to get obligated, because you basically have to be ready to deliver that project. But just as a FYI, the project doesn't have to be completed. That it does just have to be obligated in that year.
And you want it obligated in 6 months, or you want it obligated in 12, Catherine?
Within the fiscal year that it is listed. And so if it's listed in FY 2022, that starts July of 21. And so you could start the paperwork in January of 21, and then you can start obligating those funds by July of 21, and you have from July 21 to June of 22 to actually obligate those funds.
So the anticipation would be is if you start your paperwork 6 months early, you should be well on your way 6 months into the fiscal year calendar, because that's a full calendar year at that point.
Yes, that is the hope.
And I think the also thing that we're trying to stress is, again, making sure that we properly program the projects. I think in years past, we've had a multi-million-dollar projects all go in 1 year for design, right away, and construction. Hopefully, we've all seen that that's not going to be something that's possible moving forward. So we should be phasing projects into the design phase, the right-of-way phase, and the construction phase, and those should be spread out. So by the time you get to construction, you would have already completed your design phase and your right-of-way phase, and you should have a very good idea of where you're heading, not having all of the money sort of bunched up and sitting there waiting to go. So hopefully we're also sort of setting everyone up for success by spreading it out in that way. So hopefully that will help as well.
I just have a question, and this is Junior and Lachelle. I'm not singling you out or putting you on the spot, but you know, if your contracting office is really backed up, I mean, does that play into, you know, local governments not being able to get their project obligated within that year, or would that not really even be an issue?
Yeah, it can play into it. This is a case where they're not always backed up, but in this time right now, they are trying to catch up. So Junior has outlined like a normal, and when I say normal, I mean like if everything goes smoothly with the project, kind of timeline in the flowchart. And so that's what we should expect. This is kind of just kind of a blip in time where they're trying to get caught up, and hopefully it won't take very long. We're seeing a lot more movement than we have in the past, so that's a good thing.
And Lachelle, is it fair to say that part of the reason they're backed up is because actually all of the jurisdictions and CDOT and Catherine PPACG have done a remarkable job in the last year cleaning up the glut. You know, we had a large number of projects that were rolled over from year to year. And I think at one point the glut had gotten up to what, like 30, 35 million, something like that. A lot of those projects are now being obligated. So part of the backlog we have is that we're fixing the problem. Once we get the problem fixed, knock wood, hopefully we won't go back to that way again, and these things can just sort of run it in a more circular fashion. So is that fair to say, Lachelle, that part of this is just the backlog is due to us catching up and kind of a victim of our own success because you guys and the jurisdictions have done a great job in delivering the projects now?
Absolutely, that's definitely part of it. We swamped contracts and we swamped all of our specialty groups trying to get clearances and everything like that. And so we've done a great job. Our region went down to actually, we had, when I started last year in June, we had around 102 projects. And this, towards the beginning of the year, we were down to about 77. And then we went through several call for projects recently. We're back up towards 100. So things are moving, and that's really good. Yeah, and I agree with you, John, that projects are moving, and that has caused a bit of a delay, but I think we're going to get caught up, and hopefully we won't have to swamp them again.
That sounds good. Thank you, Lachelle. Thanks, John. Makes sense.
Any other feedback for Catherine?
So this item is just for discussion, of course. So I wanted to get your thoughts on these. So if it's helpful, I can send this out in an email and ask for you all to provide any more comments you have specifically on the what to do about projects that aren't making progress in time. And that would probably be determined by, well, CDOT and the jurisdiction together saying, this is where you should be to make that progress. Or, I mean, you can say you want to skip that part of the policies right now and see where we are with this new kind of checklist and time frame where we do sooner check-ins to get you moving on the project. So if that makes sense.
And Catherine, you and I probably should have talked about this beforehand, but hey, I like putting you on the spot in front of everybody. But right now, I think we still have what I like to call sort of, right now, if a jurisdiction isn't performing and for one reason or another doesn't want to put the money back into the pool, doesn't want to say that the project isn't moving forward. Right now, the only option is what I like to call the nuclear option, which was put in place before I got here, which is basically we go to the board and we tattle, and we go to the board and recommend that the board removes the project. The first question for you, Catherine, is that correct? Is that the one that's on the books now? And if that is in fact true, that's what's on the books, I don't want to do that. I just, to all of you guys, I think the nuclear option, there's got to be something that we can all put our brains together on that is a kinder, gentler sort of way of getting it move forward that isn't so high profile and it doesn't start getting all of the cranky people involved. So Catherine, is that correct, or is there something else that I am forgetting?
I don't think there's really any wording about it besides the potential for a tip amendment that rolls the project forward. So there's nothing that specifically says take it to the board and they can shut it down.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm remembering the nope language. I think that's where it came from. Not 1 penny more or 1 penny additional or whatever it is. I think that nope language is the one I'm referring to, which I thought was still on the book. So if we did get rid of that, then it's not quite such a urgent thing to make sure that we have a process that we can all agree to. Because I thought that was the only option we had was the nuclear option, which again was not my preference, and I don't think anybody's preference. So
John, I think it's after 2 roll forwards that it has to go to the board is the way that it's written, if I remember correctly. But Brian, can you shed any light?
Oh no, that was so long ago. I don't remember that.
I think it's 2 roll forwards. That's what I think.
Right. So, and again, I think we've got projects right now that have lived through more than 2 roll forwards. And so you've called her bluff. We didn't take it to the board. But that being said, I think we want to have something in place that's not the only recourse we have to sort of move these things forward. And I think maybe some sort of peer group is more appropriate, where you all are probably more effective chatting with each other than me running and tattling or something like that. But all I'm saying is I think that is something that needs to be addressed, and I think it needs to be something that everyone is comfortable with from both the jurisdictions, as far as from a perspective, PPACG, for making sure that we get all the projects actually program perspective, as well as meets with our federal and state partners. So I'll just leave it at that.
Any other comments for Catherine?
Make my final comment.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Or are you going to say something, Brandy?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I guess my question is, does anyone want me to either email and get more feedback or bring it back to another TAC for more feedback? We have some time before this needs to go into our policies, since the new tip cycle will start in October, but it'll still be good to get kind of this rolling with the new projects. So just any recommendations on that from anyone would be helpful.
Catherine, if you could do an email, then I can send it out to the engineers. I'm not the one that runs these projects, so I want to get some input from the people that actually do it.
Sounds good. I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that helpful, Catherine?
It is. Thank you. I will do that. I will send out an email. Appreciate it.
All right, we are nearing the end. Member entity announcements.
Just had one quick one to add. Our Route 33, which is the Manitou Incline and Cog Shuttle, was discontinued on well, late March. It was kind of in conjunction with the closure of the incline. But Route 33 will be starting on Monday, this coming Monday, August 24th. So that's good news.
I have a quick question.
Yes, we're real excited about that.
Whatever happened with Pikes Peak Community College and the Rampart campus?
Oh, yeah, good. Thanks for asking. So, you know, we did have public process to kind of revise the service of Route 40 to just operate during the fall and spring semesters only when classes are in session. And that service change was approved, but with further discussions, probably that came out of this meeting last month or following last month's meeting, both PPCC and Mountain Metro decided to not operate it this fall. And that was based purely on PPCC mostly doing online classes or not having classes operate or be held on their campuses. So we're going to kind of talk again in December to see what it looks like for the start of the spring semester in January. And, you know, we'll be ready to go if they give us the okay to do so.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Brandy, I got one.
Okay.
It's not an announcement, but it's more of a question. So they set up the next Front Range passenger rail meeting during our next TAC meeting. And since a bunch of us are on that, is there a way to adjust the TAC meeting for next month? Or you might not have.
Yeah, Victoria, that's a really good question. I emailed Spencer yesterday after the meeting invitation was sent out and told him just what you said, that, you know, probably close to 10 of us who are invited to the Front Range passenger rail meeting are also on the TAC, and that there was a conflict. And if there was any way to, you know, perhaps change the time of the Front Range passenger rail meeting, but I haven't heard back from them. So, but one way or another, it's probably important for all of us to be at that, but also be at the TAC. And with Zoom meetings, we could probably do that, right?
Just not very well, but yeah, you probably could.
All right, let's wait and hear and see if you hear back and let me know. And maybe it won't be an issue if they move theirs.
Sure. Yeah, I'll let you all know. Thanks.
Thank you.
Catherine in the loop, and then if we need to adjust, then Catherine will let us all know. Okay, any other announcements? Anyone else trying to steal our standing meeting time? Okay. Items for future TAC meetings, Catherine?
I don't have anything as of yet, but I'm sure I'll find at least one.
And eventually we'll add these tip policies to meeting agenda at some point.
Yes.
Okay. Any other final parting comments, thoughts? All right. Well, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.